Okay. Yay.
Hi,
Hi.
hi everybody. We're going to wait like maybe a minute and then we'll get started.
And for people who are here, if you want to take your screen down and show your face, I love seeing people because then I connect with you when I'm sharing and I can see your breathing and energy and then we all connect together. It's a good thing. So, hi,
Hi.
Sabrina. Thank you.
Hi.
Good to see you. Yeah.
Thanks for
So,
doing these with us. This is awesome.
thanks. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Yeah. Maybe we'll wait a few more moments and then you can reveal what's behind the image.
Yes.
So, I hope everybody's having a good weekend so far.
Yeah.
And I'll let you let me know when we should officially start.
Um, I think let's give it a half a beat in our editing terms.
Okay.
I think we can start.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Great.
everybody, welcome to our Summer Support Sundays. This is the third session with the lovely Carolyn Barnes, certified hypnotherapist and mental wellness coach, amongst other things. And I'm just going to have her take it away.
Okay. So I have some really transformative stuff here to share with everyone today, which is very exciting because in a moment I'm going to share the biggest secret to letting go. And most people get this wrong. And instead, what they do, instead of actually releasing, they resist or they get overwhelmed by things and they try to fix or force or figure things out without even realizing it. They're actually draining their energy and staying stuck in a loop. And once you understand what I'm about to share with you, and once you apply it, you're never going to look at your emotions in the same way anymore. And this is about letting go of the judgment because there's nothing to judge. Emotions are energy in motion, emotion. And it's a form of intelligence. And it's a signaling system. And when you learn how to really work with your stress response and your emotions and understand this, it helps guide you. And it's pretty amazing. When you really start applying these techniques that we're going to be learning today, you're going to experience the kind of freedom that most people wait for something to happen in order for them to feel a certain way. And it'll all make sense. But before I go any further, if I haven't met you yet, I'm Carolyn Barnes. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. And again, 10 years ago, when I was actually a health coach on television, I nearly lost my life to chronic stress multiple times. And so now I help people rewire their response to it and actually let go. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing today on a cellular level, which is very different. But before we dive into things, I'm going to share something with you that I can't believe I'm sharing this because it's kind of hard to admit. But when I was about 8 years old, I used to duct tape my thighs every night before bed. And I was praying to God that I would wake up in the morning with these skinny legs. It doesn't work, so don't do it. But at the time, my parents were going through a divorce. And my dad, he got three things. He got a condo, he got a cat, and a companion, this is my companion, which was really his girlfriend. And she had these really long, skinny legs. And in my little girl brain, I made up a story and I thought to myself, well, if I look like her, then maybe he would pick me. Maybe I would be chosen. And it doesn't make sense as an adult woman today, but back then, that story really stuck, not because it was true, but because the emotions and the feelings were never fully processed properly. And, if you're like me, no magical genie comes down into your bedroom late at night and goes, there, your feelings are valid, real and true. And, you know, your dad's just lonely. That doesn't happen. And so what does happen is we make a decision, right? And instead of processing those emotions, I held on to them And I convinced myself that maybe it was me and this is my fault. And maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. And here's why this is important. If you're just tuning in, I duct taped my thighs when I was really young, yada, yada, yada. But why this is important is this. From about 0 to 8 years old, we form beliefs. And when a deep emotion, a strong emotion, fuses together with conviction, comes together, a belief is made. And we try to make sense of things at the time. And beliefs don't just disappear. Emotions don't just disappear. What they do is they form our self-concept, how we see ourselves in the world and how we see the world around us. It also shapes all of our thoughts and they become automatic. So now we're having automatic thoughts. This is all for protection. You may notice these thoughts like, if I don't get it right, I'm going to be rejected. I mean, it's not always as clear as day, but these thoughts become pattern loops and the body responds in a pattern loop. So even if, something small triggers that from the past, the emotions that were never fully processed get amplified and it just comes out disproportionately. And these are triggers. So this is very important because how you feel is the most important thing. How you feel is the driver behind everything you do, everything you don't do, and it shapes how you do it. If you really think about it, you go into a room and like if you are wired for a fear of rejection, you're going to shrink, you're going to scan, you're going to carry your body differently, right? When you are embodied and feeling safe in your body and feeling safe in the nervous system, it appears like confidence, right? And you walk into the room and you expect to connect. So you're going to get different outcomes. When we feel safe in our bodies, people around us feel safe. And that's what creates magnetism, people feeling comfortable around us when we feel comfortable. And this is a nervous system response. And nobody ever teaches us this. And so you're going to learn a lot about it today. And so, like I said, when strong emotions happen during a time of an event way back decades ago, the brain takes a snapshot of this. And this becomes a memory and the mind stores it and then the body remembers it. And this is like a knee-jerk reaction. This is a trigger. So I want you to start thinking about how you respond when emotions come. Do you run from them, hide, shove them down, avoid? Are you a fighter defending yourself? How do you respond? Start just, putting that little seed into your mind. And what's really important, and really before I share how to process everything, what I really want you to understand very clearly is, like I said, your emotional state is all self-generated. No one and nothing makes us feel a certain way. And that's hard to grasp. So trying to fix and control things on the outside is not what's going to change how you feel. It's when we go inward, and this is why this work is so powerful and important. When we go inward and we take back control and understand this internal control panel, which we're going to dive into in a moment, you're going to recognize there's this little window of opportunity when you're in the heat of the moment. And sometimes you can't see it, but then you see you're in a pattern response. That's when the magic happens. This is when we have something called free will and a choice. And we can get sucked back into the matrix and be on that automatic pattern loop of a response, or we can stop and just slow down and choose how we want to respond. And it gets a little tricky here, but this is the muscle that we're going to be building today. Now, this is important also. When your mind starts spinning and you feel sucked into the drama of the mind, it's not about reacting, it's about stopping. We went over this if you were with me the last time. And this is incredibly important. And we're going to really code this in. And What I want you to understand is when you literally say, ready? I am feeling, and you fill in the blank. If you don't know what you're feeling, whether it's anger, it's sad, it's whatever, it's resistance. When you literally say, I am feeling, and you put the word feeling in front of it, now you send a different command to your mind and body. Now it's an action. So now we're bringing the feelings to the surface, and most people get scared of this. And they don't want to do this. They think that they're creating this, but what they're really doing is they are interconnecting the mind and body and bringing the emotion to the surface so it can finally be processed and let go of it. But what we do is we judge it and we interrupt this very natural process. And instead, what we do is we say, I shouldn't feel this way, or look at the bright side, or we get mad and we start justifying ourselves and we start spinning, all of which drains our energy and keeps our self-limitations. So when we literally say, what am I choosing to believe is true about myself or the situation in order for the feeling to exist? Or what am I afraid of the most in order for this feeling to exist? Then all of a sudden, it starts to decompose that self-limitation. And this is where our power is. You're no longer defending limitations. Now we're becoming aware of it. And this is exciting, shining a light. And you're going to feel all kinds of shit come up to the surface, shame, whatever. But observe it without the judgment, because now you're giving yourself what maybe you never got, which was safety, right? In allowing your nervous system to adapt. And this is a muscle. And I'm telling you, if I could do this, anybody can, because this was a whole hot mess. Now, it gets a little tricky because if you can imagine, okay, that there's a lot of negative momentum. Let's say you've been in a negative space for a while and there's a lot of buildup. I like to call this, overload, where your computer screen has all the tabs open, it's not functioning in the same way. Or think of it like this. You ever gone camping, not glamping, but real camping, where you don't shower, you don't use deodorant, and you offend yourself by like the third day. You really stink, right? It's because you have all this gunk and buildup, right? You don't brush your teeth, you don't wash your body, you don't clean yourself, and it stinks and it's disgusting. So think about it like this. We're taught growing up to wash our bodies, brush our hair, clean our teeth, but nobody teaches us how to clean our energy, right? And this is now emotional plaque. It's buildup. And as a result, we feel cranky or we feel off, we can't sleep, and we are in a spiraling loop. We disconnect from ourselves. And the part of us that is disconnected is now in the driver's seat. And this part of us is trying to problem solve from a place of lack, scarcity, and limitation. And that's not its function. Its function, this part of us, is to protect. So now you're getting deeper and deeper into the spiral and into the loop, and it feels hopeless. And that's so much. So we're gonna change that today. We're gonna fix it. But it's not about fixing yourself, because you're not broken. Nothing's wrong. There's parts that we never learned how to adapt and adjust. And when we are feeling big feelings, we don't need to explain why. We just need the acknowledgement and the validation for feeling the way we are. And most of us never got that growing up. And instead, we stay in our thoughts, our analytical mind, and we try to rehash things, or maybe we call a friend or somebody we know and we tell them the whole story, and we really replay everything, and we're not really asking for solutions. What we're asking for is validation, permission to feel how we feel. And it's okay to feel this way. And here's the truth. Yes, it is okay, because you are. It is the truth. You do have permission to feel this way. Your body's having a real learned response to something that was never fully processed. Maybe this was from decades ago, and the feelings get amplified because they are begging for acknowledgement, not justification. And what we do is we complicate things and we interrupt this process of letting go. And instead, we continue in this defensiveness, or we dismiss it and we keep the belief. So it is okay to feel this way. Nothing's wrong. People are not broken. We're human beings, and we have a brilliant nervous system that's doing exactly what it's designed to do, which is to protect you. And sometimes it's over functioning, and we don't need that protection. So we're going to learn how to allow it to go back to what it's designed to do. You know, if you were in a jungle late at night, you'd need that high alertness, but you're not. And technically, you're safe. So we're going to change how we respond to this. So right now, that was a lot of information. If you're experiencing a little anxiety, that's okay. That's normal. Just notice it. And take a breath with me right now and just notice breathing in through the nose. And as you slowly exhale out, maybe you allow everything to soften just a little bit more. And breathe in. And if you'd like, you can look around your space and just notice an object in your space. And once you notice an object in your space, go ahead and close your eyes. And you could bring that object to the forefront in your mind's eye. And if you were to imagine holding this object, I wonder if you could become aware of the weight of this object in your imagination, in your mind. And then imagine running your fingers around it. And what does it feel like underneath your fingertips? Are the edges round or pointy? What's the temperature like? Is it cool or is it warmer, depending on the material? And if you were to tap your fingers on it, what would it sound like tapping your nails? Or do you have any? What sound would it make? And just breathe as you drop in, because there's a proven way to make changes that you're looking for. And it doesn't come from force, and it doesn't come from fixing. It comes from awareness and from openness, and it comes with a willingness to look at things differently than the way maybe you've been looking at them before. Because there's always more than one way to look at something. And the fact that you're here right now already says that a part of you is already open and is willing, even if it's small. A part of you is ready for something new, something that doesn't involve overthinking, overanalyzing, or pushing through, you know, or shutting down or exhausting yourself, which means a part of you is ready to relax. And I wonder if you can bring your awareness to that most relaxed part right now and just notice which part of you is already most relaxed. Maybe it's just a little bit more than any other part. And as you keep your awareness on that most relaxed part, each breath soothing your body and just calming your mind, as you just continue breathing in and breathing out. But once you become aware that the air is a little cooler on the inhale in and slightly warmer on the exhale out, once you have that awareness, that contrast, the air's a little cooler, breathing in, and a little warmer on the exhale out, you'll naturally and automatically just have this tendency to relax even further. Now, before I bring you in even deeper, just think about what emotion have you been experiencing most often lately? There's probably a lot of them because we're complex people, but see if you can notice, is it more fear or sadness or worry, anxiety or anger or shame, overwhelm? And just pick one so we don't get too overloaded. And once you do, I wonder if you can become aware of where you might feel it in your body and just notice. Maybe it's all over your body, or maybe it's in your throat. Maybe it's in the stomach. Bring your attention to where you notice the tension. And then you could take your hand and then touch the area that you feel it. And we're not trying to fix anything or to change anything. We're just letting it be there. And if you were to imagine that it's like a messenger, which this messenger has something very important to say, because it's a signaling system. Every emotion carries a signal. And every signal asks a question. Are you going to listen and pay attention? And it's pretty simple. When we observe the body begins to let go. When we let go of why and just notice, nothing to fix, nothing to solve, but just presence and observation. Now, this is a skill that with practice, it becomes a little bit easier, but we're going to go a little bit deeper. Just a moment. And I want you to just ask yourself very gently, what pattern is my nervous system still reacting to? And you may or may not know right now, and that's okay. But underneath this pattern, I wonder what belief might still be living there. And see if you can become aware of this. It's very personal. If any feelings come up, you could always open your eyes, but just notice without judging. This is your nervous system adapting. Maybe it's a belief like I'm not good enough, or I'm too much, or everything's all on me, or I'm all alone, or I need to earn love, or it's not safe, or there's not enough. And you don't have to fix anything, and you don't have to believe it. We're just observing things right now and breathing. Because before we go deeper, and just breathing in and breathing out, there's a couple things that are really important to know. Because once you understand how the unconscious mind communicates, everything becomes just easier. It becomes deeper and more powerful. And the best thing is, you don't have to figure it out. You don't need to listen to what I'm saying consciously, because I'm not talking to your conscious mind. It's kind of like you don't have to figure out how to beat your heart, right? You just trust that your heart beats all on its own. You don't have to figure out how to digest your food. There's deeper intelligence, and it's already running the show. And if you were to just simply imagine that you could float down into that deep intelligence right now, like you're floating in that intelligence, that network of intelligence, what would it be like, look like, and sound like? Knowing that you could just kick back and like you're watching a movie and just go along for the ride. And the part of you that needs to hear this is already listening. The unconscious mind does not speak in logic. It actually speaks in symbols. So you may notice flying colors, or your third grade teacher flying around on a broomstick. Whatever you notice is fine, because your unconscious mind speaks in symbolism, color, light, sound, and vibrational frequency, emotion. And so the more you allow your imagination just to guide you, the more powerful this process becomes. So as you just continue breathing slowly and deeply, I want to remind you of something very important. Whenever an image or a word or a sensation comes up first, go with it. Go with the first thing that comes up, even if it doesn't make any sense. It's more the direct route. Now, your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind always answers honestly. It gives you what it believes to be true, even if that belief no longer serves you. So we're not going to argue with anything. We're here because we're updating coding, okay? And you may feel like you're making things up. Don't worry about it, because your imagination and your unconscious mind use the same pathways. So if it feels like you're making things up, fine, great. It just means that we're in the right place. And if you feel like there's an urge for you to edit things, you editors, well, that's fine. Don't do it. You don't have to. Kick back and just watch the randomness. Maybe you hear yourself trying to, dismiss and discount things. That's a part of you trying to take control. And that's the part that just needs comforting. And it also whispers, it's not a shouter. So you got to really listen. It gives you little nudges. It stirs things up. And it speaks to you in sensations, in intuition, in emotion, not in logic. And it's not linear. It'll jump around, and maybe you notice a childhood memory or a dream, or maybe it's in the future. It really doesn't matter. So we're just noticing what you're noticing as you follow a thread, not the map. So the most important takeaway is this openness and a willingness and curiosity whenever anything comes up. There is no right or wrong. There's only information. And now that you have a better understanding, or not, your unconscious mind communicates everything to you. So I want you to imagine and begin noticing something in your life, a specific area that you want to shift, you want to change. And maybe there's tons of areas, but we're going to pick one. Something where results aren't quite matching what you really want and desire. Whether it's around your health or finances or your purpose and passion or relationships, pick one so we can just really focus. And you don't have to overthink it. First thing that comes to mind, go with it. And just notice what happens when you go with the first thing that comes to your mind, and just trust it. And as you bring that awareness into your desire, just notice what it would feel like to have it fully and completely. And just see it and feel it. Maybe you hear it. And imagine it's happening right now. And on a scale from 1 to 10, just notice how strong your desire is for this shift. It's the first number that comes to mind. Go with it. And on a scale from 1 to 10, and this is why we're here, how much resistance do you have towards the feeling? Maybe you notice this as tension or fear or doubt or just an inner block. And then notice where you feel this resistance physically in the body. Is it in your chest, your gut? Wherever you notice is fine. Maybe you don't notice, and that's okay too. And just see if you could become aware of the sensations. Is there tightness? Is there a numbness? Are you completely disconnected? I used to be completely. And there's no right answer, just observe. And if any resistance shows up, great, that's why we're doing this. This is your nervous system showing exactly what needs healing or updating, because it's just trying to keep you safe based on old, outdated beliefs. Now, go ahead and Once again, place your hand over the part of the body that you're noticing this resistance, and using your breath, just breathe into that space. And this is going to be a little weird, but we're dealing with different parts of our neurology right now. So let's say the tension was in your chest. I want you to imagine you're actually pulling it out. Wherever you notice it, just pull it out of your body. And again, if it feels weird or awkward, it's just we're tapping into different parts of your neurology. Don't judge it, just go with it. And then notice once you pulled it all out, is this a color or a shape? Or what image comes to mind that represents this feeling? And if nothing comes up right away, that's okay too. And now using your index fingers, and this is important, draw a frame around what you just did. Just draw a frame around this blob. So we isolate it. So we tell the unconscious mind, this is not in the body anymore. This is outside. We're observing it now. And imagine this is like a television set, like one of those old-fashioned kind. I'm going to date myself in age, but you know, the kind that have the knobs at the bottom. And if you can turn one of the knobs all the way to the right, imagine this blob or whatever becoming all white. Notice what that feels like. And then notice there's another knob, and turn that all the way to the left, and it goes all dark. And then see, do you prefer it all white or dark? And if you don't care, pick one. And now, once you've done this, put either hand on either side of the frame and stretch it all the way out, all the way, all the way, all the way out. Notice how that feels. And then bring it, squish it all the way tight, 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 tight. And just notice what that's like. Shrink it. And then whatever setting is the most appropriate or most comfortable, adjust. Now, imagine that this screen is like a tablet, and we're going to use our dominant hand that we write with. Our index finger is like a glowing Sharpie that you can write with. Okay, and maybe you write, you know, on the desk or whatever, but or in the air, whatever you decide is fine. And I'm going to ask your unconscious mind if it's okay to let go of this feeling that you've been carrying around. But before we do this, I want you to ask yourself, what am I afraid of that might happen if I fully had what I wanted? And just start writing. This is called automatic writing. And just start writing it out. And just listen to what you're writing, because we're interconnecting the subconscious mind when we do this. And then ask, what would somebody have to believe to be true for this feeling to exist? And write that out. And once you've done that, just notice, where did you learn this pattern? Where did this become a patterned response, belief? Where did the emotion get stuck and trapped? About what age? You be wrong. Just the first number that comes to mind before 8. And whatever answers come up, just allow it. Even if it seems silly or dramatic, some of the things when I've done this before seem completely like, what? But don't worry, just go with it. This is how we detangle things. Because remember, the unconscious mind does not work with logic. They're just part of a thread. And just ask, is it possible that the belief was just trying to protect me or get a need met? And is it possible that the belief Made sense back then, but now you're older, you're wiser. You don't need to keep believing that anymore. And you don't need that part dictating how you see yourself in the world. That was then. And as you ask your unconscious mind, is it safe? Are you allowed to let go of this now? Allowing the emotion to speak while you're using your finger. What else do you need to do differently or understand in a new way? Or let go of? And just write it out. And you don't have to think too hard. If you don't know what to write, write, I don't know what to write. And sooner or later, you might be writing something you didn't realize. And just notice if it's okay to let go of the emotion around. You don't need it. And if you were to imagine that screen that you've been writing on, that invisible screen, were like this tablet in your hand. And it's just holding the emotion. And it's holding the message, the old pattern. Because in a moment, just imagine you could put it above your head and fling it behind you. And it just lands on a concrete wall. And you know what a jackhammer sounds like? And it's just being jackhammered onto the concrete. So it's out of your mind, out of your body, out of the thoughts, no longer in you. And as you just continue breathing slowly and deeply, each breath soothing your body and calming the mind. I just want to remind you that you don't need to listen to everything I say. You'll drift away, and that's fine. And some people hear each word I say, and others might drift away, and that's perfectly fine. You could always wander back into my voice. And my voice can guide you in the exact right way that's just right for you, because your mind really isn't designed to sit still. And so if you drift out, that's fine. And when you awaken after this entire process, you're going to feel like you had a nice long rest, a reset. And there's a tendency to feel more calm and relaxed, more in control. Things will feel just more doable. But as you just continue to drift right now, it might be reassuring to remind yourself that there's a part of your mind that already knows how to learn, even without knowing that it's learning. And this may or may not make sense to your conscious mind, which is okay, because there's other parts of your mind that are way beyond your conscious awareness, and they're very comfortable with this awareness. It's like the very first time you learned how to walk. In the beginning, you didn't know you were learning and you fell down a lot, and then you kind of pulled yourself back up, and sooner or later you're putting one foot in front of the other and you can just open a door and walk out. Or like when you're learning how to drive a car, there were so many things that you had to pay attention to all at the same time. You had what do you have, the steering, and you had the blinkers, you had to change lanes, and then you had to stay in the middle of your lane, and it was frustrating in the beginning, especially for the conscious part of your mind, remembering everything. But you wanted to learn how to drive. And so you practiced, right? Until sooner or later, your mind and your body, you put it all together into one complete action. Now you just grab your keys, get in the car, and you go. Well, isn't it nice to know that part of your mind is here with you right now? And you can really learn new ways of thinking, new ways of feeling, new ways of doing, because they're just patterns. They're patterns of living that we all do. Everything is a pattern. From the moment you wake up in the morning and you notice your phone and you press, the snooze is a pattern. From making your coffee, it's a pattern. To thinking, it's a pattern. And your old patterns of responding to your stress response had a function. They did things for you. But did you realize there are other ways to get all the positive benefits that those old patterns used to give you without having to do them in the same way in the future? And you may or may not know what they are right now, and that's okay. You simply need to understand that it's possible. So as you just notice all the possibilities, as you drift even deeper, each breath soothing the body, calming the mind, as you step down, just imagine you're standing at the top of 5 steps right now. And with each and every step, you just allow yourself to soften a little bit more and drift a little bit deeper and notice which part of you is a little bit more relaxed. And you may notice at step 5, stepping down at step 4, you're in complete control over how relaxed you'd like to feel and become right now. And at step 3, maybe you notice at step 2, your body's just feeling light. It's relaxing even more. You're taking step 1 and you just drift deeper. Every nerve turns loose, it lets loose. You're stepping into a private screening room now. And I wonder if you can imagine that you're stepping into this private screening room and just you, and there's a screen in front of you. And it's not just any screen. This is a screen, and it's showing you like a movie theater screen, a recent moment where you had your stress response activated, or maybe there was an emotion that was active. And I want you to observe your patterns when something is triggering you, or when you're overwhelmed and stress hits. And just notice, without any judgment, notice that you're just observing yourself, observing the screen. You're not in it. Maybe you drain all the color out, maybe make it black and white, the screen. And just notice you're observing. You're not the actor, you're observing you as the actor. And just breathe. And notice what's being played out on the screen. How's your posture? How do you carry yourself? How do you walk? How do you talk? We're not judging, we're becoming aware. Are your shoulders up? Are you hunched forward? Do you look down? Notice the expression on your face, not with judgment, just awareness. Can you become aware of any thoughts that might be running through that version of you on the screen? Any thoughts in that version's mind? Are they looping, defensive, just overwhelmed, too much at once? Notice a behavior pattern. Do you shut down completely? Or do you start fixing? Or do you try to explain yourself so that you justify everything? Do you argue, withdraw, over apologize? See if you can become aware of the patterns. They're not good, they're not bad, they're not right, they're not wrong. They're a learned response that never learned differently. Now zoom out just a little bit and see if you can notice where you might feel the emotion living in the body. The chest, the gut, the jaw. This isn't about judgment, it's just about an understanding. So we can shed light, bring more awareness. So that whatever you're watching or noticing right now, I want to remind you, this is not a flaw. This is a protective response. And once you notice it, do you want to keep it? Maybe it's not efficient. Maybe it's very outdated. But just notice the intention behind it. And it was always there to protect, to be heard, seen, understood. And just take a real slow breath. And imagine this first screen just beginning to fade. Because in a moment, we're going to move on to the second screen. And as you notice this second screen, this is how you imagine other people seeing you when you respond to stress. See if you can become aware, without judgment, observation. And just notice that the scene begins to fill in And it's just a glimpse of how you think other people see you when you're in a vulnerable state. Not how they actually see you, but how your nervous system believes you're being perceived. This is very different. Just we're shining a light and then dim it. And just notice that the focus isn't just on you, it's on the imagined eyes watching you. Maybe you notice who is watching you and who's judging. Maybe it's a parent or a sibling, a boss, a partner, husband, wife, I don't know, faceless, or just a blur of judgment or self-judgment. And just allow the nervous system permission to just respond. It's adapting right now while you're observing. You're not in it, you're just observing. And just notice if you're sensing and noticing, do people think that you're too much, too sensitive, shut down, cold and stoic, too dramatic? Are you weak? Are you wrong? What comes up for you? Feeling misunderstood or invisible? And just let it all play out on the screen, but you're not in it. You're just being a witness to it. No filters, no editing. Just observe. How does your body respond to what these perceived gazes might be? Do you shrink? Do you apologize? Do you try to get approval? Do you put on armor and try to protect yourself? Do you get angry and frustrated? And then notice whose eyes are those really? Where did the pattern come from? Is it someone from the past? Is it your own eyes? Somebody's voice or energy that might still be echoing in the system, in the lens? And then imagine you can pour just beautiful, purifying water over it and just allow this scene to fade away like you're turning on a faucet and cleaning the slate. Maybe all the ink from the scene just goes down the sink in that moment. And let the screen fade. Because the next screen holds something very powerful. And this is the third screen, the part of you. And allow your heart to open to this part of you. And in this third screen, just notice around what age. And it's not their fault. And maybe you imagine saying to this part, I'm so sorry, please forgive me for judging you as what? Fill in the blank. And let them know it's not their fault. They never did anything wrong. They never learned differently or how to do differently. They never learned safety. And just take a breath here for a moment. And if you were to imagine this screen almost like a mirror and looking back at you is that much, much younger you. And they're little. And they don't know. And maybe you say this word for word or in your own way, but how can you let them know that how they feel is the most important thing in the entire world to you? And that their feelings are valid, real, and true. And how can you create safety in their nervous system so these feelings can be expressed without judgment, without trying to force or fix, but with unconditional love? Maybe you say it's not your fault, you never did anything wrong, you just never learned another way. But now you can learn And now it's up to you to support and teach them that holding on to emotions is not safe. It doesn't protect. It hurts the body. It's much safer to let go. And if you were to imagine saying these words word for word, or in the way that makes most sense to you, what if you said, I'm becoming a loving parent to you now, because nobody in the entire world can play this role the way I can. I'm becoming a loving parent to you now, because nobody in the entire world can play this role the way I can. And just breathe. And just notice what it's like when this younger part feels heard, seen, and understood. And ask this part, what does it need? You're the most important person in the entire world, not anybody outside you. What does it need? And listen with your heart as you hear with your mind. And imagine that younger part can pop out and just be with you right now in this screening room. And maybe there's a little wizard and you could start to code in new things, and you and this part begin working together to rewire the pattern, because that was then. You don't need it anymore. In fact, before we do this, go ahead and turn to that part. Thank that part for trying to protect you. And they've done a great job. But they don't need to do that anymore. That's not their job. Thank them, but you got it from now on. So that you can begin to rewire a new pattern, a new choice, a new response, a new code. Because the mind is literal, and the body listens to every single word you say. So imagine you had this little wizard genie coding in, noticing that the next time you notice yourself slipping into the old spiral loop in your mind, you stop. And you just stop. You interrupt that process. Whether it's overthinking, whether it's a tightening in the chest or snapping at someone, you just stop. Okay? So let's rehearse, and then we're going to stop. And just imagine this movie playing of how the old pattern went, and stop. And whoop, you're going to rewind it right there in that moment. You're going to command your mind and your body to recognize, this is a pattern. This is a pattern loop of response, of feeling. Patterns can be interrupted, and you are not the pattern. You're not the program. You're the one who notices. You're the awareness. You're not your thoughts. You're the observer of your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're the observer. And so now you stop and pause. Notice the tension. Put your hand on the tension and breathe, oxygenate. Maybe you say, I am feeling. You insert that word, and maybe you can see it, hear it, and feel yourself going through the process, so that we wire in, code in these new commands, so that you say, I give myself permission to let go. Now you have clarity. Your mind is literal. I am feeling, and fill in the blank. And I give myself permission to let this go. And you may even choose to bring this deeper and say, what am I choosing to believe in this moment is true? And when you do this, you neutralize those feelings, because you're no longer in judgment. You're in curiosity. You've redirected, breathing in and breathing out. And just imagine this is coded in. Breathe it in. Sooner or later, on the fourth screen appearing right in front of you, this is a version of you. It's very different. This is a version of you beyond the pattern. It's created a new pattern and updated you. One that's on the other side of things, a version of you who's practiced, who's paused, who's breathed, interrupted the pattern. And just notice, what do they look like? How do they carry themselves? How do they walk? How do they talk? This version supports themselves in discomfort rather than abandoning the self or avoiding or attacking. Notice how they do this when they're present. And just take a moment to really observe them. Almost like that movie, Weird Science, and they create Kelly LeBrock, that perfect image. You're doing this now on the computer. And you're creating this version, you 2.0. And really observe them. Notice the energy. Notice the power, the strength, the confidence. Notice how they carry themselves, grounded, centered, real. They've been through it. They've learned. And now they lead themselves. They recalibrate easily. Notice this version meets the emotion as energy, not as danger. They no longer need to prove themselves or perform. Just notice. And notice the kind of self-acceptance they have and how it benefits all the areas in their life. Notice the benefits of creating safety in your body, in yourself, and having practiced. And if you were to imagine gently floating outside of your body and floating into this version of you on the screen, so that now you're looking through those eyes and see what you see and hear what you hear and feel what it feels like. Make the images and the pictures brighter, the feeling stronger, the sounds more rich. Notice what more self-love, what more power feels like in your mind, your body. It's like you're slipping into a new avatar, and just allow your nervous system to adapt. Make this familiar. This is what you get to rehearse from this moment forward. And just allow yourself to notice what it looks like, feels like, and sounds like, overcoming problems and challenges in the exact right way that's just right for you. And as you feel yourself embody this version of you, as you relax into the nervous system of this avatar, as you see what you see and you hear what you hear and feel what it feels like, just notice how you begin to feel more interested in the present moment, and you're less caught up with challenges of before. Your mind becomes calmer and it's just clearer. You're more composed. You're more peaceful, more at ease. And you think more clearly. You concentrate more easily. You see things in their true perspective. In the past, they may have gotten out of proportion, but now you see things more in their perspective. You feel more peaceful, more secure. And you begin to discover this deep level of confidence in your ability to face whatever it is that needs facing, to handle whatever you need handling, just with grace. And just notice this version speaks to themselves fairly, kindly. And it's a practice so that every day you feel stronger and more resilient. Every day you hold your ground more, not with force, but with awareness, observing, as you begin to feel, not just hear, that every day in every way you're just feeling better, as fast as is right for you. Not because I said so or some words that I'm saying, but because you choose to rehearse a role that shows up in life differently. And that's the secret. You show up differently. You respond by choice. So each and every time you notice, tension in your mind, body, or thought, you stop. And you create that window of choice. And as you practice imagining this version of you day by day, just notice how they show up in relationships, at work, or during the day, how you hold boundaries, how you support yourself, how do you speak to yourself? And as you float forward week by week, month by month, how does this version handle pressure? They acknowledge differently. And just notice how they handle uncertainty in a new way because they've become embodied and certain with themselves. Because you've taken the most important step. You decided to be here and go through this process, which means you're already rehearsing exactly who you're becoming right now. And as you notice, looking through the eyes of your future self, what it's like when you look over at yourself right now, what's most important, and go ahead and suggest this to yourself right now. And then ask, what are you willing to start doing differently so that you move forward feeling more calm, relaxed, and in control? And then see yourself, hear yourself, and feel yourself doing what you might be willing to start doing differently in a whole new way. And once you've noticed this, can you become aware of what you might be willing to stop doing so that you feel more calm, relaxed, more in control, more embodied? And then notice that as a movie playing and see it going backwards. Well, you just simply say to yourself and rewind it, nope, I stop. I don't do that anymore. And just allowing yourself to return back to the center of your heart and becoming this new energy of calm, safety, and resourcefulness. And as you exhale all the way out, let it spread throughout your entire body, this feeling of safety and unconditional love, all the way from the top of your head, all the way down to the very tips of your toes, all the way into your fingertips. Because this is how you rewrite patterns, by giving your body what it's needed instead of what it expected. And that changes everything. In a moment, I'm going to bring you up and out. I'm going to count from 1 to 5. But before I do, just take a moment and imagine you in the near future. Maybe there's a moment that used to trigger you. Maybe it's a conversation or a deadline or an interaction, maybe that would normally spark stress. And notice it this time from yourself responding differently. Just grounded, clear, strong, and feel the new pattern beginning to take shape inside of you. And just allow yourself to notice without any judgment, because this is what safety feels like. This is the real you, observing it all, not the judgment. The judgment is protection. And so with that, just breathe that in. And when you're ready, slowly bring your awareness back into your body at 0 with a deep and cleansing breath. As we begin to come up and out, you may notice your hands, your fingers, your toes at 1, and the room and space around you now at 2. Maybe you want to yawn and stretch at 3. So that at 4, opening your eyes, blinking them open, so that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, eyes open and just wide awake, feeling calm, relaxed, back in the room and back here now. Now, I can't see you, but before we close, I just want to share something with you. You showed up today and you leaned in, and maybe something shifted maybe something opened. And for some people, you might notice a release pretty quickly. And for others, maybe you notice over the next few days. Either way, it really doesn't matter. It's not about quick fixes. This is about integration. And I want to remind you, you don't go to the gym and walk out expecting a six-pack, right? This is a practice. It takes repetition, support. It takes consistency, and most of all, safety. Because letting go is a skill. And just like any skill, it gets stronger with practice. So this is recorded. Watch it again if you want. You don't have to figure it all out at once. And for those of you who would like more support, I want to invite you to reach out. Go to my website, carolynbarnes.com. Send me a message, download a free audio, or join my membership. I'm telling you, I created a membership. It's $27 a month. It's like less than a copay. And you put in capital ACE and you get a discount. And I've created over 80 audios in there that will help you rewire your response to stress. Let go of shame, doubt, fear of rejection, everything. Confidence, weight loss, sleep, all of it. It's all in there, you know. So take advantage of this. And if anybody has any questions, I'm here. And if not, I'll stay on for a little bit. But thank you for joining me today. Truly. And